Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Real Ethereal show. I have not been on the set, Jesse, in a few months, right?
Right. Yeah.
Been taking a little break, but never gone forever. And I know a lot of you, because I've been talking to you on the boards, have been looking at my shows because I've filmed 3 seasons already. And by the way, if you are a subscriber, all the shows that we've ever filmed have become this beautiful library that you can look at as many times as you want and whenever you want. So it's really a huge benefit to become a subscriber. As a lot of you know who watch Real Ethereal, I have been building libraries about astrology, crystals, transits, channeling, psychic work, metaphysical topics of all kinds. But one of my favorite topics is the Enneagram. And there were 2 more numbers that I had not put in the vault, so to speak. And they were 6 and 9. So today, it's going to be 2 separate shows, but today I'm going to be filming 6 and 9. And I know a lot of you thought I had forgotten, but there's no way I would forget 6 or 9. So super excited about talking about these wonderful individuals and wonderful individuals who I have a ton of both numbers in my life, especially 6. So let's get started. Today, we're going to be talking about the Loyalist, which is type 6. And just in case you are an Enneagram beginner, there are 9 types, and it's a personality typing system. You know, there are lots of different typing systems out there, but this is one of my personal favorites. It's been around for hundreds of years, but a lot of therapists, psychiatrists, business coaches, counselors, metaphysicians, and just normal people in general love using the Enneagram for personal growth. I'm a 4, and I have a lot of friends who actually use this of different numbers. It has changed my life. And that's really why I want to get this knowledge out there, because not only is it fun just to know what your type is, but the Enneagram actually gives you tools to understand what your blind spots are, to understand where there's struggle in your life, how you were a part of that struggle, and how you can, the best way to put it, once you understand yourself and know your type, it's a lot easier for you to get out of your own way. So you are not a part of the problem, you're a part of the solution. Now, can you control someone else? No, but you can control, you getting out of your own way and you bringing your positive attributes, the positive attributes of your number and your personality to a situation in the best way that you can, right? So that's what this is all about. There is no good number, there is no bad number. All 9 types. First of all, we all have a little bit of all the types in us. But second of all, every type brings something wonderful to the world and is a great teacher for some of the best of humanity in their little bucket. So we always talk about that towards the end. So type 6, the Loyalist is the name of this type. All the types have nicknames. The Loyalist, in a very general sense, is known as the committed one, the security-oriented type. They are engaging, responsible, anxious, and suspicious. Those are very general terms, but we're going to break it down further as we go. There's a lot more adjectives to describe 6, but we're going to kind of understand what's underneath those words. Just generally speaking, they are the people that will go down with the ship. They are the people that will hang on longer than anyone. They are the people to have by your side in a crisis. Okay, now, those are some of their biggest virtues, but all of those scenarios, even going down with the ship or having somebody hang on to the very bitter end in a crisis, sometimes that strength and that focus is the best thing that you can bring to a situation. And sometimes it's not the best thing to bring in a situation. So as we become more conscious of our numbers and our personality types and what we're what we lean into the most, even if it's unconscious, what we lean into, we can start to learn when to not be that way. We can start to learn how to be conscious of our choice as to when to apply the best things and the talents and the ways that we move around in the world. When should we apply it and when should we pull back, right? So all those scenarios, there's this great book, talking about how the 6 is the one that's going to go down with the ship, right? There's this great book called, I think it's called And the Band Played On, and it's about the AIDS crisis. And they likened how a lot of the government was and how a lot of just the public in general were a lot like the band on the Titanic that kept playing while literally the ship was going down under the icy waters. And the band was like, no, it's not, no, it's not. And they're playing. They're doing what they're supposed to do. So 6 is sometimes that's a blind spot. They hang on way past when they should. On the reverse, there's a wonderful saying that I have at my company that is all about never giving up. And this, to me, epitomizes the best part of a 6. And I'll recite it. And I don't know who said this. I wish I could give you the author, but I don't know who it is. It goes, on the plains of hesitation, bleach the bones of countless millions who at the dawn of victory stopped to rest and died resting. So that, a 6 does not stop to rest. A 6 embodies, God, what was that story, Jesse, that movie that just came out that was so amazing about the person who was in the Marines in the South Pacific during World War II.
Unbreakable.
No, it wasn't Unbreakable. It was about the guy who just decided that he was going to go back and save people. The battle was lost. And he decided that he would go back over and over and over and over again. And by the way, he was against the war. He was the chaplain. He said, I will not fight based on grounds of my religion. But he joined the army, or he joined the army, but he said, I will not fight. So he went back and saved, I don't even know how many people he saved, and it was an impossible task. There's no way he could live. And it was almost like he had a miracle bubble around him. And he just said, I don't leave a teammate behind. I never leave a man behind. That's a 6. All for one and one for all. The Three Musketeers line, all for one and one for all. The other great saying that I think goes for a 6 is the Girl Scout saying, be prepared. That's a 6. And I'm going to get to kind of why those things are in a minute, but I always talk about a number's basic fear. The basic fear of a 6 is of having no support or guidance, of being unable to survive on their own. That's their basic fear. So a lot of their personality traits, their strengths, their talents, their motivations all stem from that fear, right? And every number has a very different fear. Sometimes when you can understand what a person's core motivation is or what they're really afraid of deep down, then you're really able to understand their actions, their mistakes, as well as the good they're doing in the world with more compassion and intelligence. Okay, a 6's basic desire is to find security and support. One of their mantras is, you are okay if you do what is expected. They kind of live their whole life. If you know what the rules are and you know who you're aligned with, then if you know what to do to help them, you're going to be safe. You're going to keep the team safe. If you keep the team safe, the country safe, the group safe, the family safe, then you're safe. Safety in numbers. They love process. I'm talking about, they can be very anxious. A lot of times, it's interesting, they are perfectionists in a sense, or they seem like perfectionists, but ones are the perfectionist. Ones have a different motivation. Ones want everything to be done right. Sixes want everything to be done right so that everybody will be safe. It is a difference. It is a huge difference. So a six will abandon a philosophy or abandon a process or abandon a set of rules if they feel like it is no longer safe to follow that. In fact, they'll pull up stakes real quick and move on if they feel like it is an unsafe environment, an unsafe process, an unsafe dogma. They'll pull up and leave. So what's really interesting, as much as a six is all in, remember they're anxiety and fear-based about safety and security. So the minute the cracks start to form in that safety or security, they will pull up stakes almost faster than anybody, which is so they're all in and they're also out really quickly, depending on how secure they feel. That's an interesting factoid about them that people don't expect. They have a nameless anxiety. They're born with a nameless anxiety, or they're conditioned in their family. And I'm not going to get into all the childhood issues, but let me go ahead and talk about the book. This is a wonderful book, The Wisdom of the Enneagram. It's by Don Richard Rizzo and Russ Hudson. So within this book, not only does it talk about the basic desire, the basic fear, a disintegrated number versus an integrated number, but it also talks about the childhood patterns, because how do we become a number, right? Well, a lot of times we're born with certain attributes, but it is nature and nurture. So we're born with certain attributes, and our childhood environment gives us challenges, and we grow around those challenges towards a number. So it's really interesting. So sixes didn't feel secure, and they didn't feel as part of the team. So what happens to a child that feels that way? They are constantly looking for security, and they're constantly looking for their tribe or their team. And then they want to feel safe because they weren't secure. So once they find that, or they identify what they believe to be their team or their tribe, then they start to make that team or tribe safe and secure by doing what they're supposed to do. So because sixes have this sense of anxiousness about their security, like when is the next shoe going to drop? When is the sky going to fall? Am I covering every base in order to be safe? They are looking for something outside of themselves to give them the security that they need, to give them the information that they need. They need something because they've got a low level anxiety and they're always looking for security. They need to find something that is completely reliable. Okay? That's why they're so cautious about everything and everybody. There is nothing, if you're a six out there, or if you have a loved one who's a six, please hear me. There is nothing out there in the world. There's not a person, there's not a church, there's not a dogma, there's not a way of living that is completely reliable or safe. It's not life. So once a six starts to understand that, well, when they start to understand that, then they typically have an existential crisis and they go down a big hole. We'll get to that in a minute. But once they start to understand, nobody is safe, ultimately. By the way, nobody gets out of your life. Everybody's human. You know, every religion has cracks and holes in it. There's nothing that's perfect. There's nothing that's completely reliable and safe. That's because that's life. So then you start to take a deep breath and stop searching and having to be terrified of every little thing that's wrong, feeling like that's going to unravel into the big crisis. Does that make sense? So you start to find your peace. Think about it for a second, going through life, looking for something outside yourself that is the evidence that finally you're going to be safe. You're trying to find relief for a low-level anxiety in something that's outside yourself. This is why sixes are and we're talking about disintegrated sixes, because all human beings and all numbers we're all on a continuum from disintegrated, very stressed out, not very conscious, to integrated, very conscious, very peaceful, very confident and self-aware, right? That's from 1 to 10. So we're always going up and down that scale from 1 to 10 in our number. Some stay at the lower levels most of their life and don't get more conscious and suffer. Some, do the work and get to a place where they're going up and down in a higher octave and they're more peaceful. A low level, a 6 that is stressed and is not very conscious and who is staying in their disintegration for longer periods of time are very susceptible to dogmas because they are looking for security and they're looking for absolute security, right? So think about that. They're susceptible to the I have all the answers person. The person that comes in our life, I have all the answers. What makes even, somebody who brings that confidence that they don't have, that bravado, that surety that they don't have. A lot of times that, is cased in a religion. It's cased in, what was that cult, where they believed that the UFOs were coming and they all drank some sort of Kool-Aid. All those people, it's all for one and one for all. A 6 can get susceptible to giving everything to the team. And when someone comes in and says, if everybody gives to this group, then we will all take care of each other and we don't need the rest of the world. That's essentially a disintegrated 6's utopia, right? So you'll find disintegrated 6's in cults, religions, and they won't be, here's what's interesting, they won't be the leaders of those cults or religions. That takes a different kind of number, like a megalomaniac, like an 8 or a 3, or I can think of some others, a 1. But the 6's will be the ones that do the work to keep the group going. They're the people that sacrifice everything for that team. So that's kind of the scary disintegrated part. The red flag there, I would say, is really being there for everyone else, covering all the bases. It's not a 2, which is the helper, which they totally give away themselves for everyone. So it looks similar, but it's not the same thing, because a 2's motivation is to be liked. A 2's motivation is to be loved, right? A 6 doesn't care as much about everyone liking them. A 6's motivation is to be safe and to feel secure and to support a team environment that's going to support them. Do you see the subtle difference there? So it's less about the ego of everybody loves me, everybody likes me. In fact, so a 6 will act like they're pleasing everyone, but underneath that, it's not about pleasing anyone. It's about doing what they think the right thing is to do that will keep them safe and keep the organization running and keep, the ship from sinking, so to speak. Do you see the subtle difference? It's different. We talked about how when a 6 reacts to stress, they descend into being a complete and utter follower. They can have their blind spots because they're so hyper-focused on being safe. They don't have blind spots. They have blind spots of common sense and reality sometimes. Another way that they react to stress is to go to 3, which you'll know if you study the Enneagram. Every number has 2 they call them arrows, that you go to where you can either disintegrate or integrate. 9 and 3 are the 6's integration and disintegration arrow points. Most of the time people have felt that 6's disintegrate most to 3, but they can disintegrate to both numbers. When they disintegrate to 3 and they're under a lot of stress and they have a lot of anxiety, they go to the lower part of what a 3 is, which is, it's all on me. No one else can take care of this in the way that I can. There's an arrogance of no one cares as much as I do, so I have to do all this in order to keep this organization afloat. So it can be a martyred place. It can be an arrogant place, but they're not aware that they're martyring or being arrogant. They're very unconscious of that. their consciousness tells them that they're preserving the group. Like everything's going to go to hell in a handbasket if I was not doing what I'm doing. And it's just resentment builds, stress builds. The other thing is the anxiety builds. They're trying to relieve anxiety, but when they feel like it's all on them, the anxiety builds. The anxiety goes through the roof because all of a sudden now they're believing that it's all on them or everything's going to go to hell. So they're piling more and more expectation on themselves, which is so 3, right? That's how the 3 disintegrates. So how do they integrate through a 3? They integrate through a 3 by feeling in a very healthy way a little bit more on their own and relying on themselves and not feeling like they have to pick up everybody else's slack or that they're, only beholden to a team environment. So when they integrate to 3, they can step more into a leadership role and go, you know what, I am a part of the team, but I also have to take care of myself. And that a 6 integrating to 3 is a lot like the, airplane with the oxygen mask metaphor. You gotta take care of yourself and do what's right for yourself first before you can go and help everybody else. So a 6 can be the best 6 they can be when they've taken care of themselves and they put themselves first. Then they can achieve their goal of being there for the team better than anyone else. So 9. How does a 6 go to 9? So 9s are typically the healthiest place for a 6 to go, but we're also going to talk about the disintegration. So when a 6 is getting really stressed and they're having all those moments or red flags that they're disintegrated, that they're getting unconscious because they're getting stressed, 9s are the peacemaker. 6s can lean into 9 by saying, you know what? It's not all on me. I'm a part of a bigger whole. I can't do everything. I need to just have faith in the vision. It's kind of a lean into your faith moment. I need to have faith in the vision. I don't want to judge other people. 9s don't judge other people. Let me put it this way. A 6 is literally walking on water and completely conscious and has no issues when they are using the phrase live and let live. Because they don't live and let live. That's not how they operate. They don't believe fundamentally that we can live and let live. That they believe fundamentally that in order to be safe, we need to have a strong society, which is very true. But when that gets way out of whack, whenever they get in a stress moment like that, one way to lean into 9 is to say, live and let live, which is very difficult for a 6 because 6s believe, and it's true, it's partially true, that as a society, we can't just live and let live. We all have to help each other and be connected to one another in order to survive. 9s are it's all going to be okay. You got to live and let live, right? So I'm not saying they need to swing from one side to the other. I'm just saying 6s get so far into they can't live and let live that they need to have more balance, which is kind of letting your hands go of everything. That's how 9s soothe. Going to 9 soothes a 6. So a 6 disintegrates to point 9 by having their anxiety and their worry so great, like just so overwhelming, that they cut and run. In other words, F it, I'm out of here. I don't care anymore, whatever. Let the chips fall where they may. Or even if they're not saying it out loud, they quietly, like a 9, they quietly, completely disassociate from what's going on around them. Okay, so they float off. So it's the polar opposite and an extreme reaction to their unrealistic, when they're disintegrated, complete and utter commitment. Like they don't have balance in their commitment, so they cut it, and they're the polar opposite of being committed. They go from one extreme to the other, which can be just as damaging, right? So 9 and 3, if you're conscious, are wonderful directions to go in to integrate, but they are very destructive directions to go in if you're disintegrated, if that makes sense, on the low levels of those numbers. So it would be really great to learn more about an integrated 9 and disintegrated 9 and an integrated 3 and a disintegrated 3 if you are a 6, because those are great tools to help you get out of your pressure-filled, stressful times. So I also want to say, let me give you a few famous 6s. Robert Kennedy. Love Robert Kennedy as a 6. You know, he was always not in the limelight, did all the work for President Kennedy behind the scenes gladly, right? Didn't care about being in the front, but really wanted to make sure, you know, they always say when you watch the Kennedy documentaries that Bobby was there to keep his brother safe. And which kept his family safe, which kept the world safe. If anybody who knows anything about that dynamic, Bobby's motivation was not about being the star. Bobby's motivation was about keeping everything under control and keeping everybody safe and doing whatever needs to happen and watching constantly. What's the problem? You know, what's the threat? He was the one who was constantly watching that perimeter. So he's a perfect version of a 6. Tom Clancy. I loved this one as a 6 because, you know, in his novels, it's really like a neurotic 6 that's turned himself into an author who will make stories about his paranoia and his really looking at any situation and finding every single possible outcome that could happen, every single loophole. So he weaves these tales where he's thought of so many that I don't care how smart you are, he surprises you with an outcome or a twist. So he's using that 6 mind to tell amazing stories based on anxiety, right? We're not safe. But how can we really protect the perimeter and figure out that one thing that we're missing, right, and fix it? Gloria Steinem, I love her as a 6. You know, she aligns with her teams and tribes that she's going to protect and speak for and sacrifice for. So she's lived a complete life of service, and it's been very much about the team she's on. And she's been on a few, but she makes it very known. I'm on a team. These are the people I'm speaking for today. So she's such a 6 in that way. So thank you, 6s, famous ones, but especially all those average, quiet ones that we all know and we all have in our lives, that if you really think about it, the whole world would fall apart without them. They teach us about quiet service, and they get up every day and don't want recognition. They just want to contribute. You all know if you are one, thank you. And then if you have one in your life, please thank them today. They deserve it. Thank you for watching. And we will be back next time for 9. That's right. I've had a lot of 9s write me and ask me to please get to their number. I'm getting to it. I also want to say that I am going to be at the Luma Summit this year, speaking on astrological transits on October 20th. So hope to see you guys there. Thanks for watching, you guys. It's been fun to be here. Bye.